Okay, let's go ahead and call the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Could you do the roll call, Paul?
Megan? Brian?
Brian is here.
Brooks? Rob? Alyssa? Michael? Barb?
Here. Okay, we've got agenda. We're thinking we want to move the agenda around a bit and move the variance up ahead of the conditional use. Would that be amenable to everybody? Okay. Could I have a motion for that?
I move to move item number 11 up to item number 6, and then I drop everything else down accordingly.
You'd probably have to move 8 through 11 up, because the whole
Oh,
call to
sorry.
order of the Board of Adjustment.
Move section 8 through
Up.
11 up ahead of item number 6.
Second.
And we're just doing that because they tie together, correct? Okay. So we're gonna move 8, 9, 10, and 11 up right after public comments, and then we will do the conditional use after that, correct?
Correct.
All right, all
So,
in favor?
just for the record, Brooks has arrived.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Minutes.
Could we, yep.
I saw one typo. Let me find it here. And, every paragraph starts with discussion held. One paragraph just starts with discuss held. So, just a typo, otherwise it's fine. I move to approve as amended.
I'd bring second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the November 6th meeting. All in favor? Opposed? All right, got the minutes done. Okay, next is public comments. If anyone is here that would like to address the commission on something other than what's going to be on the agenda later, you're welcome to come up. Any takers? Okay.
Can I
Go-
say something?
Sure.
I've been on planning and zoning 6 years back in the 90s and 8 years, something like that, this time around. And even though my term has 2 more years left to go, I am going to resign, and so I can spend more time with family. Glenn's parents are moving into nursing homes. Our daughter moved out of state. We want to visit her more often, and so, yeah. But I'll be here in December, but I won't be here in January. So sorry, and I feel really bad. It took me many months to come to this decision. So just wanted to let you know.
Well, we appreciate your service. You've been a
Thanks.
great servant. That is a appointment. I think there's people can apply and the mayor appoints. Is that how that one works?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
So, since Alyssa is the vice chair, when a new person is appointed or Alyssa leaves, whichever occurs first, we will go through the whole process of choosing another. So if a replacement for that role, if any of you are interested, that's something to think on. Correct. Right in the fire to start.
I think that would be putting them in a very bad position. Yeah, that would be by fire. So if you know of anyone that you think might be interested, give them a little nudge. I've mentioned it to a couple people. So, okay, we'll enjoy our time together with you until the end of the year. Okay. Let's move on then to. I never remember how to do this. So we are dismissing,
You
adjourning.
reconvene as the Board of Adjustment.
Okay. And we need a motion for that.
Correct.
Never remember that.
So moved. I'd bring.
Toad second.
Okay, motion and a second to adjourn planning and zoning and reconvene as the Board of Adjustment. All in favor? Opposed? All right, roll call can stay the same. Everyone is present. Approval of the agenda.
No, second.
Motion second to approve the agenda of the Board of Adjustment. All in favor? Opposed? All right. New business, variance application, 304 South Country Club.
So just before they all come up, I just kind of want to set the table. So this is a multi-legged thing. The two conditional use permits and the variance are concerning the same property. So the first conditional use permit we'll hear later requires a second driveway on a secondary frontage side, so that would be the south. Then the next one, it was to allow parking in the rear yard. The rear yard is everything behind the house, assuming it's replatted. Right now it is non-conforming because you have a accessory structure without a principal structure on a lot, so it would have to be replatted. So if you make conditions on these things, my recommendation would be that it is replatted as a condition. And finally, the variance is required for parking in the rear yard setback portion of the rear yard. If you look at the garage, it is roughly 8 feet away from each property line, and the actual garage door to the garage is more on the east side. The west side is kind of a covered porch type thing. It's not the actual, the garage does not extend. So they are seeking the variance because just the two conditional use permits don't quite get them there. They need to be able to take the car through the rear yard setback to access the garage door of the existing building. So that's kind of how it all fits together, and I'll let them take it away on the variance
Yeah.
application. Basically, the conditional use permits don't necessarily help them unless they have the variance.
Yeah.
But of course, the same checklist and everything still applies.
Okay, come on up, folks. I'll ask you to push, there's a little button there, and state your name and address, please.
Can I make a comment here? So, before the applicant speaks, we're kind of missing some information in all three of these items.
Okay.
And that is specific requested locations of where they want the curb cut, the distance that where they're requesting the curb cut, the distance from the east property line, the width of the requested access. So we're missing a lot of information in order for us to make a decision. So, and when you present your case, if you could fill in some of that missing information, please.
Some of that is still a little bit unknown, but I think I can provide maybe a little more detail that would at least help kind of clarify
Okay.
what we're looking to achieve.
Yeah. Name and address, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, you can,
Jack Hansen, 304 South Country Club.
great, thank you. Yeah, go
I've
ahead.
got some handouts. Is that all right?
Oh, yeah.
The discussion about the plan is actually covered on the second
That plat has been reviewed by the city and approved.
There's usually just a delay of processing at the county, so I'm sure we'll look at Minnehaha GIS in a week or two, and the line in the middle will be gone, and it'll be back to one lot.
So first, good evening, members of the commission. I'm here to request that the city reaffirm support to use our second garage for the purposes it was built and for the ability to add a driveway to the structure. Thank you in advance for allowing me some time to provide background and context. When we purchased our house in 1999, we signed a first right of refusal for the lot directly to the east, as you can see, kind of in that area, or excuse me, on the overhead. At the time, it was just a field, but we envisioned having extra space for our family to enjoy, the potential for a mother-in-law's or in-law's suite to share with our family and neighbors. Didn't have extra storage for tools, cars, motorcycles, boats, whatever we may have to have at that time. When that section of the development was platted, we purchased the lot and began planning how to best utilize the space. In 2007, we drafted plans for a second garage following the guidelines, limitations, and guidance provided to us by the city. We spoke with our neighbors to confirm their support, and we obtained a building permit and secured approval of our plan from the city. In that permit, it indicates clearly that this is a second garage, not a shed, not a tool barn, whatever. It was going to be used partially as a garage. During the early stages of construction, the building inspector visited the site to confirm placement of the building before the foundation was actually poured. Please note, see the picture A that I handed out? The garage was purposely constructed using materials and finishes to match our home, blend well in the neighborhood, including the siding, windows, doors, shingles, even the brick was done to integrate with our house. The landscaping was incorporated with our existing yard, taking special care on tree spacing, sprinkler locations, to ensure that the second garage could be preserved, the use of it could be preserved, and to provide for the incorporation of a driveway. During construction, the city asked us to put in a curb cutout, an apron, and a drive to the second garage. We asked at that time to delay that part of the project until there was a specific need for the drive itself, i.e. in-law suite. The city agreed to the request to delay the installation of the driveway or the construction of the driveway as long as we would install a sidewalk and agree that the two lots would be sold together when we decided to sell. Fast forward to the present, we did not ultimately need to use the garage as an in-law suite. Circumstances changed, timing changed. Unfortunately, we didn't have a need to use it in that capacity. However, we did use the garage to store campers, trailers, cars, bicycles, canoes, all kinds of stuff over the years, and to provide emergency parking for neighbors when there was a severe weather approaching. And we were recently told that the garage could not be used for those purposes. And in order to do so, along with adding a driveway, we would need to complete and get approval for 2 CUPs and a variance request. I believe this recent guidance is the result of either updated ordinances or a change in ordinance interpretation, i.e. what is considered side versus backyard in a double lot situation like we have. Without approval tonight, the garage becomes an incredibly expensive tool shed. Creates a hardship for us in the standpoint that I cannot carry a trailer from the street and place it in the garage, or a motorcycle, or a canoe. I'm just not that young anymore. For a comparison, I provided a picture B of a similar property just to the east of us that has a second garage on a second lot. That building, that second garage, is much closer to the closest property line than the garage that we have on our second lot. I believe the only difference there is that their house and the garage face the same street. When the attention-grabbing variance hearing signs went up in front of our yard, we reached out immediately to neighbors to let them know the reason for the request. In addition, other neighbors have approached us as well, and people just stop by to ask what is going on. They're a little threatening, I'll be honest, a little scary. Many were surprised by the amount of effort to get approval. Some thought that there was originally a driveway back there. Some just wanted to complain about government and red tape. In the end, no one raised any concerns. Everybody was supportive of the idea. Per recommendations, we recently had our 2 lots resurveyed and replatted into one. That's that second handout, and it sounds like the city has already granted approval for that. We've completed and filled out the needed paperwork, paid the required fees to speak with you all this evening. I believe we have completed the needed steps to secure reapproval to use the garage for the purposes it was intended and for the incorporation of a driveway. Please let me know if you have any questions, if I've overlooked anything, or if I can provide additional clarity on any of the items. I know, Brian, you'd asked about specifics. One of the things that we had talked about was having the driveway outside of the setback requirement. That would still allow it to come up to the pad, which is really kind of a basketball court right now. But it's been used again for storing all types of vehicles, in addition to other recreational equipment. My understanding though is that the variance approval is needed to drive from that driveway across the basketball court and get into the garage door. The permit was originally approved as a second garage. I don't have any other way to get from the street into that garage without driving through that setback period, or area, if you will. So that's the reason for the request. I don't know if that helps provide a little clarity for you, Brian, but yeah, that's what's being discussed anyway.
Paul, does the city have this building? Is there a difference in accessory building, whether it's a garage or a shed or is there any?
We used to delineate between a lawn shed and a garage, and now we don't. It's just detached accessory structure. And then once you make the determination it's gonna be a garage where you have to drive to it, then the driveway plays into it. It's just gonna be a work, shop or a lawn shed where there's no drivability, there wouldn't be a driveway that would align with it in the building permit.
I know the GIS overhead there, I don't know if I can point out or not. It's a little tough to see with the lines. But if you scroll out to the street, you can actually see where we purposely spaced trees for the purposes of putting in a driveway. That was always the intent from the start, that there would eventually at some point be a driveway there. We just at that point did not have a need to do it.
Did we have a concern with a neighbor or something, or why did this come up? Or were we gonna do some development?
I mean, the city did receive, the building department did receive calls from realtors that were potentially representing buyers, and they wanted to know, their clients wanted to know, could a driveway be put in? And then that started the conversation with Mr. Bartman and the Hansons about how to tackle that problem, and I think they came to a conclusion that they wanted to ask the city for pre-approval. I don't believe the family intends to do it themselves. I don't want to speak for them. But they wanted to have it on record in this file that the city would allow the driveway for this this detached garage. Then a potential buyer would then buy it on the understanding that the city would allow it.
We've got a couple of parties that are interested in the property. Thanks, Paul. That's very helpful. One of them has a classic car, wants to be able to store it in the garage, similar to what we've done with our vehicles in the past. Doesn't have an interest in driving across the grass, doesn't have an interest in driving his collector car over a curb. Very understandable. Limited use, probably be in and out of the garage, I'm guessing a dozen times a year, maybe, kind of a thing. I also wanted to call out that I provided everybody a copy of the original permit. Clearly it states on there that this structure is a garage. And obviously, again, in order to be a garage, you have to have a way to get from the street into the structure. So hopefully that provided a little bit of information about what the intended use was for, or is anticipated to be. We're kind of in a tough situation, obviously. We built the garage with the understanding that it could be used as a garage, and we have been. We've had to be a little careful at times because driving across the grass after some rain can create some problems. So when we had a camper, we were always mindful of the forecast. Sometimes we got it out of there early, sometimes we didn't go camping because if the ground was too wet, it wasn't feasible to pull it through there. However, it's always been used as a garage, and we want to retain that ability.
you have the address for picture B in your handout?
It's on Sunrise.
Okay. I'm trying to understand, that appears to be a single frontage lot, is that,
It's a double lot. At least I believe that's what it. There you go.
on Sunrise Court?
North Sunshine.
Sunshine. So that our parcel is different. That does have a backyard opposite the driveway side of the house.
Right.
And so
Understood.
that garage in picture B complies with the setback requirements.
Right. I think the change that I anticipate happened, and this is a little bit of speculation. I don't remember all the conversations I had with Dave at the time and with the city at the time. My understanding, the reason we were able to put the garage where it is right now is that they didn't either have a difference in side yard and backyard, or they viewed that second lot independently from our main lot. And that allowed that garage to be placed where it was. Still doesn't change the fact that we've got to have a way to get from the street to the garage. That one on Sunrise or Sunshine, I'm not sure, sorry. The only reason that we brought that up is that's a double lot. Both buildings, you're correct, face the same street. In our situation, we're being penalized because the front of our house faces Country Club and the front of that garage faces Lopez. But the
So-
situation is the same. They're two structures on two lots that have been joined together.
So I'll make a comment. When you call something garage, that's not a term that applies. We're talking an accessory structure, so. I do have a question for staff. At the time of this application, do you have any records of, the ordinance requirements at that time? I guess probably the big
We
things
do not
is,
have them handy, no. I imagine they were probably quite different back then. I don't know whether setbacks would have changed or whatever, but I imagine they are probably fairly different.
well, the reason I'm asking is, at the time it was built, it was an accessory structure constructed prior to a primary structure on a parcel, which is
Correct.
not allowed now.
Correct.
So if that was allowed back then, that obviously would have been the front yard where the driveway would be going. And what we're talking about for the driveway now would be the side yard. But based on what we're dealing with now, that is a backyard. So we're
Correct.
talking apples and oranges here, not, you know what I mean?
We did work through trying to figure out if they could consider that a side yard versus a rear, but they were just short. If you go north of the house to that property line, it was 19
inches.
point. Yeah.
It would strike me odd, even if it was allowed, as a primary structure before, or accessory structure before the primary structure, because it should have still had a backyard to it, behind the garage, to the north, but it doesn't. So what's happening is you're having your cake and eating it too. You have no, if you look at just that parcel, when you built this, you didn't have a backyard.
I guess I don't know that there was any.
When,
need
if you
for one.
look at just your east parcel, when you
Right.
constructed that garage,
Right.
it likely was probably not in compliance because there was no backyard. It was in the backyard.
How
If
did
you were
the-
looking at the south as being your front yard, when you originally constructed it on the separate parcel.
I don't understand how we would have been approved to place it there then. why the
I
city.
wasn't around then. That's why
No,
I'm trying
no,
to
I
find out what
realize
the
that.
ordinance was back then.
Right.
That's why the question in my mind.
Ultimately, the permit was approved. The placement was approved.
For the accessory structure, yes.
And a way to get to the accessory structure, or as the permit indicates, garage, we need a way to get in.
Well,
and
that's,
out of
here
there.
again, that's a vague term, because we're talking accessory structure, not use of the structure. What you put in that doesn't matter. What comes into matter is when you put a driveway back to it. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Now, I've seen lawn sheds with garage doors on them. I've seen lawn sheds with a single walk-through door. I've seen lawn sheds with double walk-through doors. So I'm just stating the facts right now, okay? Just because it has a overhead garage door doesn't mean, well, it was always intended for cars to drive into, okay?
I think you can tell from the pictures anyway what the intent of the building was, based on the way it was designed. And I realize what you're saying, Brian. That's not the case here. So, it's not a garden shed. That was never the intent.
It looks like the pad is somewhere around 40 feet wide, is that right?
Probably.
So, if you, because if you can't go in the setback, we're just saying, you know,
So good question, Mike. If I follow kind of your thought process there, the intention was to put the driveway outside of the setback zone. So
So
to
then
the west side of that pad. it
the
would
only
come into
part of the
setback.
variance then that you need is where if you said the driveway was 20 feet off the property line,
Mhm.
up to the garage, the only variance you really need is just where you get into the garage.
Exactly. That is correct.
And I guess my question would be, right now, is it legal, non-conforming to park a vehicle in front of that garage? Would the way it's set up right now, he's got a parking pad there that you've used, right?
Oh, yeah.
So is this legal non-conforming? If he parked a vehicle there, is that,
Well, technically, he would have had to go across a non-hard surface from the street to get there, and that would be in violation of the off-street parking. So if I saw a car parked there, I could very well write a letter to the owner stating, how did you get that accomplished? And then that's not allowed in today's zoning, is to go across grass.
and now the way it sits, because now it's a rear yard. So now with a conditional use permit, he could put a driveway there off of the setback without a variance, right?
Correct. With the conditional, he would need the two conditional use permits, the one to allow the concept of a driveway. And then the second one would allow the positioning of the driveway in the rear yard, but not in the setback.
Yeah.
The variance is to have the driveway, whether fully or partially just to get to the door, be in the setback area.
So if he was off of this setback up to the existing pad, and he could do that with a conditional use permit, but then you just can't get in the garage.
Correct.
I think this falls in line with how we've treated decks and other things that are outside of compliance, but we're not extending the non-compliance. This is, I mean, it's right there. I don't know what the hardship is other than it's something that's been there for 20 years and he can do everything except get in the garage without a variance.
Correct. Staff also struggles with that. We had quite a long conversation trying to work through it. We work with the rules we are given. We generally probably would not consider parking of vehicles to be a legal nonconformance because vehicles come and go. If a vehicle, it sounds somewhat dumb to say, but if a vehicle sat there ever since the zoning ordinance changed, then maybe it would be legal nonconforming, but when the vehicle leaves, the use of it as the garage ends. It's an accessory building, as Brian was speaking to, and that's where we struggle, because we all understand the practicality of it. It's just whether the rules, as they are written, are practical to it.
I understand that, but if there was a driveway existing there.
If there
and-
was a driveway that was existing there, it would be an existing non-conforming use. There is no driveway, though.
Right,
That's the
but he
problem we
could put a
struggle with.
driveway there without a variance,
If he
off
had the
the setback.
conditional use permit.
off of the
Correct.
setback.
Correct.
So if he had a driveway existing there off of the setback, he'd be okay. But because he doesn't have a driveway there, he needs a variance, you know what I mean? If it would have been done,
If it would have been done back in the day, he would be fine.
he'd be fine. Because we'd say this is an existing issue, but now it hasn't been done. And we can do everything with conditional use except for get in the garage.
Correct.
Well, I guess what are we putting first, the chicken or the egg here? Because we have a non-conforming use for the existing pad that's there. Okay, we're not changing that. We're not here to talk about any change for that, right? We're just talking about getting to that pad from the street. That's what's at discussion tonight, correct? And so I haven't heard yet where the driveway wants to be to act on a variance. I haven't been given a distance from the property line of where you want this driveway. Do you want this driveway,
Yeah. As-
5 feet off the property line? Do you want this driveway 20 feet off the property line, which is in conformance?
Yeah, as mentioned before, what's envisioned and proposed is having the driveway outside of the setback, so 20 feet. So if you look at the GIS stuff again, it would be to the western part of the existing pad is where it would reach the existing pad or basketball court, however you want to view it.
So it'd be 20 feet off the property line?
Yes,
So that's in
exactly.
compliance with the code?
Correct.
The new concrete would be in compliance with the code?
Correct. Whether it be concrete or pavers or, some
So-
type of hard surface.
So if that's what he's asking for, do we technically need to address a variance? Because what's there now is a non-conforming use. It's already in place where we can't force him to take it out.
Correct. The use of the pad would be changing, though. There would be now vehicles being permitted by the city to drive over the pad. It's
But as part of the
taking a pad
conditional
and making it a
use,
driveway.
he still has to go through a conditional use
correct.
to put the driveway in. As part of that condition, we can say, you can drive across it, but you can't park on the existing. But for the variance to construct concrete from the street to the existing pad, if it's 20 feet off the property line, we don't need a variance.
So it depends on how you want to slice it when you're changing the use of the pad. I guess technically, if with the conditional use, you could say a condition that they can't park there. They could just drive across it. The problem is when someone parks there, then Paul has to bring the hammer down. Unfortunately, is that,
Can I add?
how much trust do you want to have? Is-
The one thing just to clarify, and again, I'm not trying to get myself in trouble, but there have been trailers and motorcycles and cars parked in front of that garage door on and off for years.
Yeah, I saw
And again-
one of the overhead images, there's actually a trailer
Yeah,
between the garage and the
and
property line.
again, all of that was discussed with the city when we got approval for the permit.
As
That-
Paul has stated, that you can't have a driveway with a non-hard surface, so
Right.
that,
Yeah, and that was
That
just
argument's
recently
probably-
told me,
yeah.
told to me, and
Yeah.
I'm like, again,
I-
in the interest of full disclosure,
Yeah.
we've been dragging stuff in and out of that garage on and off for years. We had a 33-foot travel trailer parked up in the rocks next to the garage, on and off for years.
Yeah, it's not,
And again,
We didn't hear that.
I understand, but again, I'm trying to be honest with everybody. That was the intent for that structure. So,
Just a comment to the rest of the group here, we've had a very, very, very similar situation a while back at the corner of Liberty and Birch Street, where they wanted to do this exact same thing.
but they were off of the setbacks there. I think that one was off, that one met all the setbacks.
Well, they came in and asked for it, and we made them comply with the setbacks. They wanted to do it closer, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, but that wasn't a building that had been in use for 30 years.
that was new construction, if I understand.
It would be new construction in the setback, wanting a driveway in the setback.
They wanted a driveway in the 20-foot rear yard setback.
Gotcha.
So Jack, part of our issue is that many of these things make perfect sense to the homeowner and also to the commission. But to make that work with the rules is the challenge. And I understand that staff has been working with, trying to come up with some different options of some suggestions. That's the challenge. Because once we, once we do one, then we just open up the floodgates. And that's our challenge. So that's
Yeah.
what they're mulling over.
Completely understand. The only thing I would add to that, Barb, and you raise a good point, I have a feeling that our situation or circumstance is probably fairly unique. I'm guessing there aren't too many people that have a lot situation like this where we've got two lots. The second lot already has a structure on it for 20-some years. That type of situation, I think, is going to be a little bit unique. I may be wrong. Maybe that comes up regularly, but I could see like Mike and Brian were discussing about possibly a new construction request coming forward and wanting to build in the setback. This is something that was approved, again, 20-some years ago, so I think it's a little bit unique in that regard.
Is there any distinction between a driveway and a parking space?
Not really, it's where you put a vehicle, whether it's a parking space or a drive aisle to a parking space, which would be a driveway, or we don't really make that distinction. It more or less falls back to if you can put a car there and it drives there, then it's an access lane, which is required to follow the parking requirement.
I don't know, I guess in my mind, what's there is there. If he wants to put a driveway in that falls off, that's 20 feet away from the property line. So that what we're talking about for a new building, possible building permit, all of that's in compliance. We can't, like I said, we can't make him change what's there. He's not asking to change any existing conditions, so to me, I don't see that this is a variance. The existing building is what it is. But as part of the conditional use, to put the driveway in the backyard, we could put the condition that they don't park in that section right in front of the garage door. You got enough parking spots for 5 vehicles. I don't see that you would need to park there anyway.
Right.
I mean, you got a 3-stall garage and you got room for 2+ vehicles in the accessory structure. I don't see a need that you would be needing to park cars in front of that door anyway.
The only worry I worry about, I mean, I'm okay with parking cars, it's just campers is my worry, especially motorhomes, cause that'll be a pretty long driveway. And you could easily park a pretty good sized motorhome there if a family member would come into town and wanna stay there and go, oh, I got a pad free out back you can park on. And it's kinda like a free, and there's no, we couldn't put any teeth to that to stop them, really.
The additional argument there is you do have what appears to be something parked also in addition to what is allowed on the plan itself already on the GIS.
Okay, I have a question. So if there was if they added on to that hard surface that's already there to make a driveway that comes out to the road, would they be able to park on the new part, the new driveway part that they're adding on to that? Or
They
just,
could.
that would be okay, but just not on what's existing there?
They could, if they built the closer part 20 feet off, so your setback would be the 20. The garage is roughly 8 from the property line, so it would be the difference. So the 12.
It looks like it's about 20, if you stay on the 20-foot setback, it looks like there's about another 25 feet of that pad that you can park on. There's, so there's plenty of room there.
If the drawing on page, which page is this in our pamphlet here? 19, is that the correct one? 38-foot wide pavement, 7 feet off the property line? That's dated 5/13/08. Is that the correct layout?
So so we assume it's 8 because one of them shows 8, but the other one then shows something different. So the first one on page 17 showed 8 and 8 based on the original building plans, and then what comes up later is 11 and 7. So we're not necessarily really sure. I'm assuming the more recent one, maybe if we want to assume 11 and 7, I don't know. We aren't precisely sure.
I'm pretty
Right, but on
confident there's more.
page 18 is a fax cover sheet that addresses the drawing on page 19, stating that this is the updated plan.
But I think there's another 8 feet right here to the setback, or off of the pad to the property line. So there's that.
Yeah, that's the
30
7 here.
Yeah, 38 plus 7. So
So 7 plus 38.
Yeah.
So it's,
Did you have something to add, Jack?
Oh, I was just gonna mention to Brian that I think that copy that you have there, or that's on the screen, I should say, is correct. There's more than 7 feet between the property line and the structure. I know that for a fact, exactly
Yeah.
the distance. I'm
because
not sure.
there's one photo in here that shows a trailer parked
Right,
between
right.
the garage and the property line. So it would be much wider than.
Then 7, yeah.
So if it's 38 plus 7, that's 45 feet. If you're 20 foot off the property line, that's going to give you you could put in a 15-foot wide driveway, still be in compliance with the ordinance.
Right.
Assuming we put it at the far west edge of the pavement, is that, and that's what
Correct.
you're intending to do, right?
That's what's being.
That's what you
Yeah,
are
being
proposing.
discussed. Yeah.
Now, are you actually wanting to do this, or you're just thinking ahead?
Good question, Barb. Thanks for bringing that up. We are not planning at this point to put in the driveway itself. We're looking for assurances that it is possible to do. If something were to change with one of the only reason I say that, Barb, is we don't want to make an assumption about what the potential new owner would want or not want. So we're looking for, again, reaffirmation that the ability to put a curb cut out and an apron and access to that garage, we have the support to do that.
Well, I think that can be dicey myself, because this commission changes, the rules change over time. I don't know that we can go back and say 10 years from now.
No, if I understood maybe some of the conversations we've had, I got the impression that once we had support to do this, that support had an expiration date of 2 years.
There is building permits and variances, they do expire over time if nothing comes from them.
What if we change the code in the meantime? Not that we're looking at changing the code, but what if the code changes?
If the code changes, your granting of the variance would hold.
Hold? Okay.
But if nothing happened, then the variance would expire and they'd have to comply with the new code.
And the only reason I bring this up is that we are constantly coming across these kind of things that go way back, and it's very difficult to try to fix them. So I don't want you to be in the same position 10 years from now.
Right. Yeah, the 2-year discussion commentary that we've had should provide ample time for the construction of the drive. Yeah, no, you're right on money.
So really, the variance, just to make sure I understand this correctly, the variance is to use the 30-foot long by 13-foot wide section of concrete that's existing as a driveway to access the garage.
Right.
This is all there already. Am I correct in defining what the variance is?
The variance seeks to use a portion of the property, whether it's currently a concrete pad or not, as a place you can move a motor vehicle over.
Right, but he's putting the new driveway in compliance.
Correct.
So that's not part of the variance. The only thing is, here again, looking at page 19, is that 30-foot long section north to south by 13-foot wide section of existing concrete, to use that to access the garage door. Just to make sure I'm understanding this.
The only comment I would have would be that when the new buyer comes in and they want to put a driveway that aligns directly with that door, and it would be in the setback, this variance would apply to that new family and would allow that driveway from the street to go right directly into that driveway and into this overhead door.
But we can say the variance is only for that 30 feet south of the garage door, not the whole distance to the street.
You can define the extent and the
So
limitations.
that they have to
of the
come in,
variance.
jog over, and then go.
Ideally, the variance granted is the minimum necessary to relieve the hardship.
And we could apply conditions to the variance where we could say there's no parking allowed in the setback.
Just one point of clarification, Mike, and for the greater group. And I don't want to speak again on behalf of any potential buyer, but I own motorcycles and I will pull them out of that garage door to wash a vehicle in front of that door. Does that get somebody in trouble if they're detailing their car in the driveway, in that area that we need to kind of scooch over to get in and out of the door? Because that would be a logical place for someone to pull out, wash their car, either leave or pull back into the garage. I don't want to set the stage for somebody to be getting in trouble just because I drove my car
I
out of
think
the
we'd have to
garage
come to
and
an
washed
agreement
it.
on what that duration of parking is. I mean,
Sure.
obviously you back
Sure.
out, you get out of your car to go shut the garage door. It's parked there,
Yep.
so.
Yep.
Yeah, is it
Good point.
5 minutes? Is it 5 hours? Is it a week?
Yeah.
What that is, we would have to come to
And
some kind of agreement.
in application, there's things that happen. We're not driving around, with meter maids trying to catch people. But
Well, sure,
the
sure.
parking in the setback is something that I don't think that's something we want to set a precedence for. And we don't want to have like a camper or RV parked long-term in a setback. That's something that I think would cause more concern. So having a condition that you can't park there is something that if there's a problem, we can say this was not part of the conditions. If we grant conditions for parking there, then you can park whatever you want there for as long as you want there.
Right.
But if we say you can't park there, nobody's gonna come around with tickets if you're washing your motorcycle.
Sure.
So application-wise, you can still function, but it's the long-term things that we would be able to stop if we didn't allow parking there.
Would you be okay, just to kind of keep things moving, would you be okay if I made a motion to allow a variance for the 30-foot long by 13-foot wide existing concrete? No parking longer than 24 hours. I mean, since you haven't made a formal request of what
Yeah,
you're asking for,
That
would you be
seems
okay with,
reasonable to
would
me.
you be okay if I made a motion for that?
Okay, that seems, yeah. And again, I'm kind of looking at the folks that
Sure.
have potential buyers and obviously the other half of this equation, so yeah, that seems reasonable.
I would second that.
Well,
We would
I guess
still need to walk through the motion.
Patrick
through
and
the
Paul, I mean, you
checklist.
guys have to enforce this, so is any comment from you guys?
We just need to still be able to go through the checklist with the motion.
And then in the future, we'll keep a very sharp eye on this piece of property.
So what are we defining as the hardship? Because we have to put that on the form, right? What the hardship is?
I guess in my mind, the hardship is it's existing. It's an existing structure, it's an existing use, it's an existing pad.
And
If we don't allow it, we're saying you can't use something that's existing.
And this wasn't a rear yard until they combined them. So before, without a principal, the reason why we had you put those together is because you can't have a property function right without a principal
Right.
property to go around. Because without having a house there, a principal structure, what's the front yard? What's the backyard? Because we use the house as kind of a benchmark of what defines so many of these things.
Sure.
And so without a house there, what's the rear yard? What's the front yard? So this was front yard, probably, so it wasn't a problem, but now we made you join it. Now it's a rear yard. So part of the hardship is the changing of the parcel and anyway, to go along with.
Brooks, did you have something that you wanted to add?
No, it kind of goes along with Michael, just in that being in a residential zone, then definitely a accessory building isn't, or a garage or a shed or anything isn't a primary use that we could have, so, yeah.
And to the left side of the table, any comments from you? We've got a motion on the floor. Go ahead.
I'll second it. I'm sorry, I forgot to put my hearing aids in before I left the house.
Anybody have any more comments before we vote?
We still need to walk through the checklist.
All right, go ahead.
Get my microphone on. Existing structure with existing access and an existing pad in front of it. That if we don't allow this, they can't use it for its existing use and condition. We would have to take that away from them.
So just for clarification purposes, we do have a variance request coming up involving not today, but in the future, where they built a parking pad and now they want to use it differently. So we have the one coming up in a couple weeks. How do we define what is existing? Because the one coming up is they built a pad under our current codes in the building permit that said not to be used for parking. Now they're coming back in a couple weeks to request that it be allowed for parking because it's existing. How do we define the parameters for existing? If we wanted to separate the two. Assuming you do, that one's not heard yet, and that's hypothetical in the future, but where do we define existing? It was built under a previous ordinance and it was lawful. Under those rules, it's what makes it existing.
I can't speak to that one. I have to excuse myself from that one at our next meeting. So, I do have some comments, but I can't speak up, so sorry.
Okay, anything else? Are we ready to? Oh, we're still working through the sheet. What else do you need, Paul? We have a detailed process that has to be completed to authorize a
So
variance.
we still need to work through the sheet. It's, not necessarily determined now, but if you set a rule, then in the future you'd have to figure out some way to differentiate a future situation from the rule you set. And we do have other variances that come down the line, and they may come down to defining what we considered existing, or somehow you have to parse them out from something you already determined in order to say no. So I'm just trying to have it be detailed enough that it is, if it's meant to be variant specific to the situation, that it's defined that way in the form. And it's not just, we've now opened a door. It's a very specific door, not just a general door.
Well, in the past, we've looked at variances because of the topography or the size of the lot. Can we use anything like that here to make it a little bit more specific to this case, so we aren't opening the door?
So we handle the unnecessary hardship, existing concrete pad, existing structure. Was there one more thing?
So-
Mr. Adler?
Unnecessary hardship refers solely to the particular physical condition of the property, not any personal or self-inflicted hardship to its owner, financial or otherwise. The hardship must be substantial and of compelling force, not merely for reasons of convenience or profit, and must render the ability to use the land unfeasible without the variance. So,
I think that last part of that last sentence is, it says land, but I think use the property, use the existing conditions, use the structure. Without this variance, he can't use the garage door.
Right.
And perhaps I would suggest adding that this was permitted, and I know we talked earlier about the terminology, but it was permitted and approved, and it does say twice or three times in there, it does mention garage, so that was included in the process of the approval in some manner, so it's point being that it's still being used under the same conditions under which it was permitted and built. It hasn't changed its use.
And when it was built, that was a front yard, and now we're requiring them to combine two parcels, now it's a rear yard, so different setbacks.
so the next one is, the literal interpretation of the zoning provisions deprives the applicant of the following rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the same terms of the ordinance. Y'all have a copy of the, so it's number D.
Yeah, I think we discussed that the literal interpretation of the ordinance would deprive the applicant of the ability to access this garage door that it was permitted and built as.
The variance requested is the minimum variance that will alleviate the unnecessary hardship. So, Mr. Hyman, just to clarify, so you want it to be at a certain distance or size, or was there a qualification or condition to this variance?
The existing pad, to limit it to the existing pad.
Just the portion of the existing pad that's within the 20-foot setback.
Right, okay. The granting of the variance complies with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance and will not be offensive to adjacent areas or to the public welfare, yes or no? Okay. H, the exceptional and extraordinary circumstances that apply to the property that do not apply to other properties in the same zone or vicinity and that result from a lot size or shape or topography or other circumstances which are not of the applicant's making are, so number H.
I think as Michael mentioned, the fact that it's required to be replatted to make the accessory structure in compliance.
The variance request does not vary the use regulations. The variance request does not vary the use regulations. Yes or no?
No.
Okay. The board hereby grants or denies, I guess that's gonna be a vote, which we still have
Did,
yet.
did my motion include the 24-hour parking? I don't remember.
I don't believe so, we can add it.
Not to exceed 24 hours.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote.
Can you, can you read it back, Paul? It's been a while.
So the necessary hardship would be existing concrete pad, existing structure, existing overhead garage door. There was an issued city permit back in 2007/8 to allow this, and the permit actually used the word garage. And this allows the owner the ability to be able to use this structure as it was first intended.
But the motion is to allow it.
In its current size, which is, I think, 200 and something square feet, it's in the permit.
Okay. All right, we're all good then?
Correct. If it's legalized as part of the driveway, yes, but it would only be allowed to be replaced in the confines of the variance grant.
All right. Yeah, it's very hard. As you can see,
Sorry.
these are very challenging decisions. All right, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now, how do we document these, is my question, like 15 years from now?
So, my guess, we have Paul's notes, and I imagine Melissa will record the variance motion, the words used to describe it, as well as the conditions and limitations of it, and that will be our record of what it is. Yeah, and it'll be all in the file.
Thank you for your patience. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
working with us. We
You bet.
appreciate it. Thank you.
everybody.
Yeah, we still have those two CUPs. Once you're-
Oh, yeah, well, you can sit and rest. We have to do the conditional uses. All right, so we need to, I'm going to adjourn, Board of Adjustment and go back to Planning and Zoning Commission and go to conditional use. Guess it's number 6 on the agenda. So for number 6, that is for,
I believe it's the concept of the additional driveway as itself, but. Yep. So, in order to have an additional driveway on the secondary frontage side of a multi-frontage lot, this is a corner lot. So you have the primary driveway to the house that is on the country club frontage. So now to have the Lopez frontage driveway requires a conditional use permit. So that's just the concept of the driveway itself. Then the second conditional use permits will go into the positioning of it.
So if we deny this,
Yeah. If you deny this, then the variance is meaningless. You can have
And this, if I
pad, you can't
recall,
access.
yeah, sorry. And this, if I recall, is something that was added relatively recently, because we've had one or two other situations came up when we kind of recognized that on a multi-frontage lot that we were okay, kind of okay with allowing this, so yeah, just thought I'd point that out. That's something that we had recognized sometime in the last year or two and made a change, so we're seeing an example of this.
and there's a limit to the width of the curb cut. Is there a limit to the width of the driveway itself?
24 feet.
Is it 24 feet for the driveway itself, too? Okay. Do you have a width that you're looking for on the driveway? We should probably just, it's a new topic, you should come up and introduce yourself again just for procedure.
You said I need to state my name again? Okay. Jack Hansen, 304 South Country Club. Good question, Mike. And from what we envision is that it would be from the edge of the 20-foot setback, then to the furthest west part of the existing concrete pad. It wouldn't go beyond that out into the yard.
So that would be 25 feet. As it's,
Then it'd be-
if the drawing's correct, the pad's 38 feet wide with a 7-foot setback.
Yeah. Then
And so if you took that 45 minus the 20, that's gonna leave you with 25 feet.
yeah,
So
we're
it'd be a foot
over.
wider than what the
Yeah, so
ordinance allows.
then the driveway would likely either be a foot further from the setback or
A foot
a
off the
foot
corner.
off the corner. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No greater than that, I should clarify. It might be narrower too, so.
I would make a motion to approve the conditional use for a driveway off of the setback up to 24 feet into the rear yard.
Hyde Brink, I'll second that.
okay, any more discussion on this conditional use? Okay. Got a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, one down, one to go. All right, the second one is for what, Patrick?
To allow for parking, including the driveway, in the rear yard of the property. Not including the setback that was previously talked about, just the rear yard portion outside of the setback.
Would there be a reason to have more than 2 vehicles back there parked?
Probably not, yeah.
I'm a little hesitant of having a parking lot in the backyard.
Good point. I imagine that anyone would do that, but that's me, I guess, so.
My husband would.
It's 24 feet wide, you could get.
It does end up being a parking lot compared to the neighbors next door, because you have the whole backyard almost, not the whole backyard, the whole length from south to north almost concrete compared to the neighbors, which is probably 25 feet only. We're talking, you gotta pour 50 feet to get to where you are now already.
I see
24
what you're
feet
saying.
wide.
Sure.
I'm not against it. I'm just saying, there's gonna be a lot of concrete back there, which, if you wanna say entices parking to a point, if you wanna say, for off-street, if it's, I don't know, whatever's going on, if it's a snowstorm or whatever, but,
Well, at Christmas when all the whole
Yeah.
family's there.
which I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I just, like Mike said, I just don't want parking lots and rear yards fully.
So do you wanna put some conditions on it?
I'd be in favor of adding a condition where there's no parking for more than 2 vehicles for longer than 24 hours. I could see a situation where maybe you have a holiday gathering
Yeah.
or something, that'd be fine, but I could definitely see somebody thinking, oh, I can have a salvage yard back here, and that's not what we want. So I would make a motion to approve the conditional use with the limitation of having only 2 cars parking back there for longer than 24 hours. So there could be some shorter term parking there, but no vehicles, two vehicles for longer than 24 hours.
Sure. Okay, seems reasonable to
And
me.
like the reason for all this is because this sticks with it for eternity, really. And this could be sold 5 more times, and all of a sudden now you have who knows living there, and all of a sudden it's a mechanic shop again or something. I don't know.
It could. We had 7 cars at my house. We have a 2-car garage. There were 3 cars in the garage. There were 3 cars in the driveway all the time, and 1 in the street every night. Until I turned my husband in, and the city made him move the one.
You know that's on the recording. Okay, did we get a second? Did we
No,
have-
second.
Got a motion, a second for this conditional use. Any more discussion? All in favor? Oh, go ahead, Brooks, did you have something?
It just occurred to me to say that, having this condition on here isn't a expectation that that we've already talked about that the city's gonna police
No.
this in any way, but it's there basically in case there was ever a nuisance situation and there's
Right.
something in writing about it, so.
Our policy is if there's a complaint, we check it out. It's not like Paul's trolling the neighborhood, no. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Okay, think you're good to go.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Yes, thank you
bet,
for
thank
bearing
you.
with us. If you're interested in a position on planning and zoning, we've got one coming open. Okay, Patrick.
We're on to discussion items, so I will leave these up to how much you all want to tolerate tonight. If you all want to head home and get some dinner, if you want to talk about ADA accommodations and merging lots and setbacks and front yards and side yards and all sorts of good stuff, we certainly can.
Well, let's see if we can get through at least 1 or 2 of these and get them finalized so we can get them off of the discussion and onto the business part of the agenda.
I think next meeting might be another discussion like what we had tonight. So
Oh, yeah, you're right. Let's see what we can get done on these.
So, moving on then to the reasonable accommodation ordinance. The first thing highlighted there in the blue is I took out all the stuff where it talks about very particular definitions and more generalized it to see the federal statutes. That way, if those change, then we change with it. So we talked about that last time. We talked about, and I added language that kind of in the middle paragraph, if the request relates to a matter requiring specific review or approval by the city, that they submit their say they want a driveway permit, that they submit their reasonable accommodation request at the time they submit the driveway requirement. So, kind of tucks things together. Conditions of approval, that's where we can condition things on removal. I couldn't really find good most ordinances I found do not specifically address removal. So the ones I did kind of keep it very general. If that's acceptable or not, we can fix it and be more specific if you want. But it's when things are required to be removed is kind of depends on whether they were federally funded or not. So it's very situational. So that's where that kind of came from. And the merger amendment is the exact same as last time. If there was anything you wanted to add other than the ADA exception and fences, then. But so that's the changes to the ADA stuff.
So what's our process, excuse me, what's our process with that? It's, like, once they vote for it, then it's gotta go, it's an ordinance, so,
So the ADA amendment
Public hearing.
is to the municipal code. So this would be a direct to city council. There's not a public hearing thing. It's a first reading, second reading. It's a municipal code amendment. So there is the smaller change to the zoning code amendment that references the municipal code amendment that has to go through the public hearing process because the state's really nitpicky about zoning. But if you want to raise taxes or whatever, just go for it. But so that's kind of, yeah. So that would go through the process. We have quite a few ordinances ready for public hearing, kind of in the hopper. So eventually, probably January, we'll have one meeting that'll be a lot of public hearings because we have probably 6 or 7 stored up. We've been waiting to just kind of put them together, get them done, get them through. So that'll be coming up soon. But if you have any further thoughts on the ADA stuff, let me know. I'm sure once it gets to the city council stage, I'm sure our city attorney will want to take a look and probably hammer out her exact wording on things. So I imagine it'll change slightly.
okay, so then we're good on that one? Everybody good on that?
Yeah, I like the change about the conditions that you can put on it. Address each one of them specifically when they come in, as far as if there's a time limit or something like that. So thank you for that change, Patrick.
Okay, let's go on to number 13 then, merger.
Yep. So the merger stuff hasn't changed. We're just keeping it together with the ADA stuff because it does reference the ADA stuff as being one of the chapter 4 and 9 of the ordinances is the ADA stuff. So that's why we're keeping them together.
Do we have to do a formal vote on these to approve them for public hearing?
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's just everyone in consensus nod of heads that it's ready to move on, or if you want to hold a motion that it's ready for public hearing. I don't know if it makes too much of a difference because it's not actually the motion's not actually approving the ordinance.
Okay, and then on page 58, zoning definitions.
So this is our long-term figuring out definitions and make them more clear and concise, and our long-term kind of detail work on the code. So I am open to if anyone wants to talk about that, or if there's any particular thing that you think we should highlight moving forward. I've just kind of been working our way through definitions and putting out examples. Like there's a proposal for a flagpole lot definition. There's other things in there just to try to get your understanding of the code to actually be reflected in the code, and whether certain things require clarification or clear. That's what we're looking for there. Just we want to make sure the bones are sturdy as we apply it. hopefully we can write definitions in a way that it's clear to me, is clear to you, it's clear to anyone that just picks up the code, that you can spend a little time to understand it and truly understand it. It's clear enough.
Can a lot have more than one parcel?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think we just go off of what's defined at the county as a lot. So I imagine you could have, if I don't know. I think it's just-
I don't think you can, but I
Yeah.
didn't know if, I was just trying to think of what the difference between a lot and a parcel would be, and but I didn't, so I wasn't trying to throw you for
Yeah.
a loop, I was just.
No. No. We go by lots. You could have 3 parcels of land next to each other, but it would depend on how the lots are defined. And if that's something you want to make clearer, we certainly could. I don't really have anything too focused on this for you. I tried to keep the meeting today somewhat light just because I knew a hard discussion with the variances and conditional use permits would take some time, and I didn't want you all to be here till 8:30 or 9, just talking about discussion items and hypotheticals and just trying to, not busy work, but not immediate work.
Does anybody see anything in there that you would like at this moment discussed, or is this something that you just want to look over for next time? Because this is just gonna be updating.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
just ongoing
Yeah.
look at things, and if we find something we need to get updated, then we'll work on it, and it's our way to work through the ordinance to make sure it says what we want it to say.
I can't read anymore, I'm sorry.
Okay, if no one has any comments at this point, I guess if you do, you can always call Patrick directly. Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Totes so moved.
Bassett second.
Get a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? Hey, we got it in under an hour and a half. That's pretty good for us.
It is 7:54 p.m.